Translator, Dark Angel. Editor. Sheng's visage flickered through a dozen shades in the blink of an eye. At last he let out a long sigh and said, "Though this man's manner is somewhat overbearing, his attainment in alchemy truly matches the height of his arrogance. I once intended to grant him a rare chance, yet never imagined that. He raised his clasped hands toward Ling Han in apology and said, "Young Master Han, please do not take his conduct to heart." Ling Han smiled lightly and said, "It's fine." This time, for Fu Yuansheng's sake, he would not pursue the matter. But should He Lin dare again to swagger before him with such pomp, he would certainly shatter every tooth in that fellow's mouth. "Then let us begin." Fu Yuansheng had already prepared all the medicinal ingredients Ling Han had asked for, and Ling Han had also taken out the second star grass. All those present were black-grade alchemists. How could they fail to recognize the second star grass? A few of them immediately cast resentful looks. They had actually been summoned here to watch a young junior concoct the refreshing pill? This was practically slapping them in the face. Unfortunately, they did not have a father who was also a black-grade high-level alchemist. Thus, though they were mildly displeased with Fu Yuansheng's actions, they did not dare voice it. Even so, their expressions had all soured a little. When Zhu Haixin and Zhang Weishan saw the other's demeanor, both felt the urge to draw their weapons and drive these people out. They actually dared doubt young Master Han? At the same time, Zhang Weishan also felt a trace of shame. He himself had once doubted Ling Han as well. Ling Han did not trouble himself with what the others were thinking. As the Alchemy Emperor, what need had he to win the respect of other alchemists? He seized the alchemy furnace and began tossing various medicinal ingredients into it. Does this brat truly know how to refine pills? How can he just throw in so many different ingredients all at once? That's right. The first step of pill refinement is purification, and different ingredients require different levels of heat to be purified. If they're all thrown in together, the only outcome is that every ingredient will be ruined. Forget it. Treat it as wasting a bit of our time. Several of the alchemists present could not restrain themselves from muttering quiet complaints to one another. It was not that they did not trust Fu Yuansheng. Rather, Ling Han was simply far too young. Moreover, in their eyes, his actions were reckless in the extreme. They were not the only ones doubtful. Even Fu Yuansheng, Zhu Haixin, and Zhang Weishan were greatly startled, for purifying medicinal ingredients was the very first step in refining a pill, and also a crucial step. Could it be that Ling Han would botch everything from the very beginning? It was truly a pity that Li Si-chan was not present. She had previously watched Ling Han refine a pill from start to finish. Purification was nothing more than child's play to him. After tossing in 7 different ingredients, Ling Han's hands trembled, and in an instant, flames surged forth. His figure began to circle the furnace as his palms struck it again and again. Wang, wang, tong, tong, tong. From within the furnace, steam burst out at once. A herbal fragrance also began to spread through the room. What? All the alchemists in the room widened their eyes in shock at the very same moment, faces filled with utter disbelief. They looked as if they had seen a ghostly apparition. "Master, what's wrong with all of you?" Qi Zhantai asked in confusion. She had only just stepped into the path of alchemy and had merely learned the basic theory, so she had no idea why everyone was so thunderstruck. Gods, 7 different ingredients can truly be purified at the same time. Am I dreaming? One of them gasped in astonishment before Zhang Weishan could answer. All these 7 ingredients require different temperatures for purification, and it should have been impossible to purify them all at once. But this brat used an extremely intriguing method. It seems as though he has split a single furnace into 7 parts, and the temperature in each separate part differs, thus making it possible to purify these 7 ingredients simultaneously. Amazing! They slowly regained their composure, though their faces still could not conceal the admiration stirring within them. But this does not seem to hold much meaning, one of the alchemists said hesitantly after a while. After all, he himself could not accomplish such a feat, so even the tone of his appraisal lacked confidence. Indeed, even Fu Yuansheng nodded. Being able to purify all 7 ingredients at the same time is certainly astonishing, but purifying them one by one would only cost a bit more time. He offered his own evaluation. This was what one would call a flashy yet useless move, for if there were the slightest error while purifying all 7 ingredients simultaneously, it would mean all 7 would be wasted. No! Fu Yuansheng suddenly shook his head, eyes wide. How can this herbal aroma be so strong? At his words, the others looked as if struck by sudden realization, and their astonishment deepened. As black-grade alchemists, the times they had purified medicinal ingredients in preparation for refinement were beyond counting. They were especially familiar with those ingredients most often used. Yet the herbal aroma now spreading through the room was clearly different from the aroma produced when they had purified ingredients in the past. The stronger the herbal aroma, the purer the essence obtained through purification. And when the alchemist proceeded to the actual refinement, the success rate would also rise greatly. The logic was simple. The fewer impurities, the less interference during the refinement itself. But the problem was that, to these black-grade alchemists, purification had already been pushed to its limit. There should have been no room for even the slightest improvement. So why was the medicinal essence Ling Han obtained so much purer than their own? Could it be, this is why all 7 ingredients had to be purified at the same time? That is the only possibility. That's right. I once heard a senior say that in ancient times, truly capable alchemists could purify various ingredients all at once, making use of the mutual effects between different ingredients so the medicinal essence drawn from purification would become even purer. Could that actually be true? Hiss! Now, no one could remain calm. Whether purification took longer or shorter was never something worth fussing over. It was merely a little more time or a little less. But if purification could truly raise the purity of the medicinal ingredients, that would be a shocking feat, an immeasurably valuable contribution to alchemy. All of them could not help but feel secret remorse. Because they had thought this step held little significance, they had missed many of Ling Han's movements and techniques. Fortunately, there were still many ingredients remaining, so Ling Han would obviously repeat the purification process. All 9 of them opened their eyes wide, not daring to miss a single movement from Ling Han anymore. Qi Zhantai was terribly bored, but with so many important figures here, she did not even dare to breathe too loudly. Ling Han was utterly focused. After purifying all the ingredients, he began the refinement of the 2nd star pill. The technique he used was called the 4 forms seal. It was extremely effective for controlling the heat of the flames. In his previous life, this control method had been equally astonishing and was widely used in alchemy at the time. Because he himself had been an alchemist in his past life, Ling Han could not bear to watch the field of alchemy degrade to such a state. Thus, at appropriate times, he did not mind imparting relevant knowledge to raise the overall level of alchemy in this age. As he continued refining the pill, he also spoke of the key details and distinctive features of the 4 forms seal. All the alchemists present, including Fu Yuansheng himself, behaved like absolute beginners, listening intently to his instruction with faces full of reverence. If outsiders had witnessed this scene, they would surely go mad. It could be said that the most capable alchemists of Rain Country were gathered here, yet all were solemnly watching a young man refine an alchemical pill. There was indeed no age limit to learning. Whoever was capable would be the teacher. When Ling Han finished refining the 2nd star pill, all 9 alchemists were deeply engrossed in comprehending and unraveling the mysteries of the 4 forms seal. They sat cross-legged on the floor. At times, one would fall into pensive thought, and at times another would strike the air with a palm. Each of them was striving to digest as much of Ling Han's instruction as possible. Let's go eat some meat. Ling Han smiled faintly and picked Hunyu up. He was in excellent spirits, because this time he had successfully refined 7 2nd star pills, and this would allow his divine sense to improve by a considerable amount. Hunyu instantly brightened. Her favorite thing was eating. I'm going too, Qi Zhantai said quickly. She had been far too bored. Translator Dark Angel, editor Kurisu Ling Han, Hunyu cradled in his arms, stepped out from the room, with Qi Zhantai accompanying them at his side. Yet Fu Yuansheng was, after all, a formidable warrior of the spiritual pedestal tier. The instant the trio crossed the threshold, his mind snapped back into clarity. With a swift leap, he followed them out and called, "Young Master Han, are you leaving?" "And my part is finished, so naturally I leave." Ling Han lifted the pill bottle that held the 7-second star pills, giving it a light shake as his face brimmed with satisfaction. "Please allow me to see you off, young Master Han," Fu Yuansheng said with utmost sincerity. By now he had been completely conquered by Ling Han's astonishing alchemical skill. Ling Han smiled and gave a small nod. Since Fu Yuansheng wished to escort him, Ling Han did not mind. They went down the stairs together. Just as they reached the head of the staircase, a servant boy hurried over and reported, "Pavilion Master, the third Imperial Prince has expressed his wish to meet with you." "Oh?" Fu Yuansheng blanked for a moment, then said, "I am just about to go down anyway, so you need not concern yourself with this any longer." "Understood." The servant boy nodded rapidly. He had just noticed Ling Han and Qi Tai, and at once he was struck dumb. Because Fu Yuansheng himself was leading them down the stairs, the shock nearly stole his breath. This was Fu Yuansheng, one of the very few most powerful, most revered figures in Rain Country. Soon, the three reached the ground floor and saw a young man and a young woman standing there. Both stood straight as spears, displaying not the slightest trace of impatience. The man and woman both appeared to be about 25 or 26. The man was tall, his thick black hair falling in heavy locks. His eyes were bright and vivid, and within them lay a penetrating gaze, as though he could peer straight into the deepest secrets hidden in any heart upon which they fell. The woman possessed a shapely, alluring figure, enough to make any normal man's throat go dry and his mouth water. Her features were exquisitely beautiful, her skin fair as white jade. Most striking of all, her hair was an unusual crimson, like living flame, lending her a singular, captivating charm. The man was naturally the third Imperial Prince, Qi Feng Yun. But who, then, was this woman? Ling Han was mildly taken aback, because this woman was astonishingly at the Gushing Spring tier. In a small place like Rain Country, for a martial artist to reach Gushing Spring tier before 30 was indeed an astonishing feat. She could certainly be counted among geniuses. "Pavilion Master." The third Imperial Prince, upon seeing Fu Yuansheng, performed the proper formalities for greeting an elder. It was true he was an Imperial Prince, but even if he inherited the throne and was crowned Emperor one day, he would still have to treat Fu Yuansheng with the utmost politeness and courtesy. "Zhan Tai greets third elder Imperial brother." Zhan Tai bowed slightly to salute the third Imperial Prince. "And wait here a moment. Let me first see off this very honored guest," Fu Yuansheng said, nodding toward the third Imperial Prince. Very honored guest? The third Imperial Prince could not help but cast his gaze toward Ling Han. Behind Fu Yuansheng stood only three. Zhan Tai was of the royal house of the Daiyuan king, so it was naturally impossible that she would receive such prioritized treatment from Fu Yuansheng, and who knew was far too small. This young man, who was he, to be addressed by Fu Yuansheng as a very honored guest, and to have Fu Yuansheng personally escort him out? That was strange. He had clearly gathered all relevant important intelligence within the imperial city, so how could such an extraordinary figure suddenly appear out of nowhere? "Please, go ahead, Pavilion Master," he said at once. Fu Yuansheng escorted Ling Han out the door, repeatedly inviting him to come often and visit at the Heaven's Medicine Pavilion before finally turning back around to leave. He even seemed a little impatient. He was in a great hurry to closely study the four-form seal. Ling Han walked together with Zhan Tai, while Hu Nu waved her tiny hands excitedly and kept chanting, "Meet! Meet! Meet! That brother ahead!" The third Imperial Prince had caught up to them. Ling Han halted and looked over at the third Imperial Prince and said, "Yes?" Had the third Imperial Prince not come to find Fu Yuansheng? Why had he chased after them instead? The answer was simple. A person had suddenly appeared in the imperial city whom even Fu Yuansheng respectfully escorted. So as the third Imperial Prince, he naturally wanted to make this person's acquaintance at the earliest opportunity. One had to understand that the Rain Emperor had a total of 17 sons. Of these 17, at least 5 were qualified to contend for the throne. The third imperial prince would naturally befriend capable people with the greatest patience, gathering power for the day he would enter the struggle for the throne. I am Qi Feng Yun. If I may ask, could brother tell me your respected name? The third imperial prince's manner was extraordinarily courteous. Ling Han smiled faintly and replied, My surname is Ling Han. Brother Ling, I still have matters to attend to, so it is truly inconvenient for me to speak for long. I hope Brother Ling will accept this item as a gift from me. I believe that, within this imperial city, many will give you a bit of face because of this, the third imperial prince said, handing over a badge carved in the shape of a violet. Thank you. Ling Han made no pretense of modest refusal and accepted the badge from the third imperial prince. Brother Ling, when I am finished dealing with these matters, I will definitely seek you out for a chat, the third imperial prince said, raising clasped hands toward Ling Han, then once more hurried away with that beauty behind him. Ling Han smiled as he weighed the badge in his palm, then slipped it into his pocket. Ling Han, this is a token of the third imperial prince. According to rumors, whoever holds this badge can eat at any restaurant in the imperial city without paying a single cent. Everything will be paid for by the third imperial prince, Qi Zhantai said enviously. Ling Han was stunned for a brief moment, then suddenly burst into loud laughter. Qi Zhantai was curious and naturally asked why he was laughing. I think the third imperial prince will definitely regret this, Ling Han said. Why? Because there's a real glutton right here, Ling Han said, rubbing Hunyu's head. Qi Zhantai was still confused. Hunyu was only a little girl. Even if she ate from morning until night, how much could she possibly eat? There truly are good people in this world. Ling Han sighed ruefully. The three went to a restaurant for a meal. When Qi Zhantai witnessed Hunyu's terrifying appetite, she finally began to worry about that clansman of hers. At the rate Hunyu ate, there was a very real chance Qi Feng Yun would be driven into poverty. Huyang Academy, Feng Luo's room. Bastard! 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 Wei Li paced back and forth like a madman, his eyes bloodshot and his face viciously surly. At last he stopped, then said to Feng Luo, Do you believe it? Do you believe it? Headmaster Wu actually expelled me from the alchemy department. Feng Luo's mouth twitched a few times. This was not the first time Wei Hele had come to complain and grumble to him. Feng Luo counted silently. This should be the 37th, or was it the 38th time? Before, he would still respond a little and offer some comfort, but now he was utterly not in the mood. Having lost Wu Songlin's regard, a mere yellow-grade low-level alchemist was naturally no longer someone Feng Luo would take seriously. It's all because of that bastard, that damn brat! Wei Heilei's eyes looked as though they might spit fire. He had once been glorious, able to brag and bask in the spotlight as a genius of alchemy. Even those of royal or noble lineage had to treat him politely and with courtesy. But now it was as though he had plummeted from a towering height straight into the abyss. His future was bleak and dark, a person chased out by Wu Songlin. What alchemist would still dare accept him as a disciple? Moreover, alchemical skill relied greatly on imparted knowledge. If it depended only on self-learning, what could he even accomplish? Which meant he was completely finished. Feng Luo watched all of this and could not restrain a cold smile from lifting the corners of his mouth as he said, Young Master Wei, I have a suggestion that would truly cause serious trouble for that brat. He had lost a considerable number of teeth, forcing him to speak with a lisp now. One had to carefully decipher his words to understand what he meant. Oh, what suggestion? Wei Hele immediately turned to look at him. Having lost practically everything, he had become utterly crazed. So long as he could take revenge on Ling Han, he was willing to do any insane thing. Here, it's this. Feng Luo produced a badge carved in the shape of a violet. What is this? Wei Hele asked blankly. This is a token of the third imperial prince, Feng Luo said with an exceedingly devious smirk. This is something the third imperial prince gifted to my brother. Tell me, if I said I lost this badge, yet it was discovered in Ling Han's place, how would the academy deal with him? And how would the third imperial prince react? Wei Heilei's eyes lit up with understanding. Frame Ling Han.